Hello, Tom from BlackToad Studio, and this is my 1750 points of Nightlords. So, we have a battalion detachment here, and we'll start off with the HQs, just zooming down here underneath the flyer. We have a Chaos Lord in Terminator armour, and he has got lightning claws, which have been upgraded to claws of the Black Hunt. We have a Sorcerer in Terminator armour with a combi melter and a force stave. We have 3 troop choices, which consist of 3 Chaos Marine squads, all armed pretty much the same. So we have a heavy bolter and a plasma gun. And alongside the aspiring champions all have a, well, this one's got a power maul plasma pistol, this one has a power fist and bolt pistol, this one has a power fist and plasma pistol. We'll move over to the elite sections next. So we only actually have a dreadnought here, so a Hellforged Contemptor dreadnought with a Keras assault cannon and a plasma blast gun in the fist with a death claw. We then have a heavy choice on this side of a 1 Havoc squad with 3 missile launchers and a heavy bolter. We also have a Venator Sicaran here, armed with twin las cannons as upgrades and obviously the heavy bolter on the top. And then finally, 2 last things, we have 3 squads of Raptors in the fast section. Basically, they're all the same bar. 2 of the aspiring champions have power weapons. Other than that, they're armed all as standard. And then finally up here, we have a Storm Eagle with las cannon upgrade, multi-melter and vengeance launchers. And thank you, Dom, for doing that dance in the background. So now we'll go over and see what Dom has actually bought for his Renegades and Heretics. And we're going to see who the real Heretics are.
And this is my 1750 points of Renegades and Heretics, brand new army on the channel, and they're also known as the Slaughterers of Silence. So we have a battalion, a super heavy auxiliary and a spearhead detachment. So starting over on the left here with the super heavy auxiliary, we've got the Minotaur, or the Minotaur, however you want to pronounce it. Then we have 3 squads of basic militia, no special weapons in there at all, just las guns and hope. Back here we've got 2 basilisks with heavy flamers mounted in the hulls. We have got 3 armoured sentinels with las cannons and hunter killer missiles. 3 quad mortars or FUD guns. Our commander today will be the Renegade Commander with a plasma pistol. He also is a tenacious survivor. We then have a Malefic Lord with its psychic powers there. Moving over towards the spearhead here, we've got another Renegade Commander here with a las pistol. We have got 3 Leman Russes, so we've got 1 Punisher over here with heavy bolters and a heavy stubber in there. We have got a Leman Russ Demolisher with a heavy bolter in the hull there. Another Punisher with hunter killers and heavy stubber. And a heavy weapon squad of 3 mortars. But also the Covenant of Tzeentch, which means our Overwatch on our basic stuff is going off on a 5 rather than a 6, and that is my army.
Okay, so we are now both deployed. So Heretic versus Heretic, who's going to come out on top? We are playing Supplies from Above, and that mission consists of 4 objectives on the board. So we have 1 here, 1 over here, 1 here, and the last one is hidden over in these forests over here, mainly because the traitors wanted to cover us over here. I mean, we're the true traitors, but these are just traitors. So anyway, from the end of battle round 2, each time at the beginning of a player's turn they're in range of one of these, it scores them a point. We also have in play Slay the Warlord, First Strike and Line Breaker. So facing, but however there is a small twist to the battle, and that is the beginning of every battle round we roll off for each objective, and whoever wins gets to move that objective 3 inches in any direction they want, as long as it doesn't end up under a model. So at the moment, the Traitor Guard over here managed to, or the Renegades and Heretics, as I should try and refer to them, are going first unless I seize. I will be seizing, Dom. It's happening.
Yeah.
The complete opposite of a seize. So we're
Gods
back.
protect.
The gods protect. We're right back with Renegades and Heretics, turn 1.
Turn 1 movement for the Renegades and Heretics. So along the front line here, the militia are running forwards, not knowing any better, but charging towards the Nightlords nonetheless. Probably knowing that the Chaos Gods will protect them and get rid of the false Nightlords. At the back here, these guys will remain stationary, although the Leman Russes here are slowly trundling forwards, exhaust fumes going everywhere as they move into position. So let's move into turn 1, psychic and shooting for chaos. Turn 1 shooting for the Renegades and Heretics. So starting off here, these 3 armoured sentinels fired their hunter killers and their las cannons across the field here, straight into this guy over here, doing a fair bit of damage there, taking it down to 6 wounds, which is pretty good going for the first shot of the game. The Leman Russes fired their heavy bolters into the squad that was standing here, pretty much just decimating them, with the quad mortars as well firing in, and yeah, it ripped them apart. To start though, we did fire the mortar squad, so going back here, the 3 mortars baited the Havocs. Tom used his Legion stratagem to increase their difficulty to hit. So my mortars normally hitting on a 5 were then hitting on a 6. I think we got 1 shot through and really didn't do much at all. Then the Minotaur fired up as well, hit straight into this guy here, taking him down to 10 wounds. The Basilisks also joined as well, firing their artillery shells up into the air, some sort of desperate attempt, and did a little bit of damage there. So we've got ourselves first strike by killing off the first squad of Chaos Space Marines, and 2 of the 3 vehicles have been damaged. So let's see what the Nightlords can do to the true followers of Chaos.
Okay, so as the Nightlords kick off their turn 1, we have made some movement here. We have the Dreadnought moving up this side of the board, heading towards this area. Hopefully, maybe going to get into combat with the Minotaur eventually. We'll see. The Flyer's made a full 45-inch move over this way, get himself right amongst all the tasty things it wants to try and kill. Does have quite a bit of weapon on there, so hopefully it can do some damage, because it's going to need to weather the storm we just just endured the following turn. Back here, these guys have stayed still. The only other 2 things that have moved are this squad of Chaos Space Marines and this squad of Chaos Space Marines, just trying to get closer to the objectives. Obviously, I still have 3 Raptor squads not on the table at the moment. We've got 2 inside the Flyer there and 1 in reserve, and obviously the Warlord is also in reserve with, probably going to come with the Raptors, but we shall see. So that's movement. Let's move on to some psychic and shooting. Okay, so as the Nightlords end their shooting in turn 1, over here the Venator, which was slightly wounded, it got Prescience cast on it, so it gave it back to its normal ballistic skill. Shot a quick main round off into this Basilisk over here and took 8 wounds off it. It then shot both of its las cannons over into the Demolisher that is no longer here. However, it wasn't that killed it, it was actually the Storm Eagle here that fired its 4 las cannons in to finish it off. That also then fired the rest of its Vengeance launcher shots, which is obviously up here, into the squad that was in the crater, and managed to kill that. That was in conjunction with some heavy bolter and bolter fire from this squad. And then finally it shot its twin multi-melter into the Minotaur and did nothing. Over here, this Nightlord Dreadnought managed to do nothing as well. However, it is in charge range, so it's going to have a little go in a minute. We'll see what happens. Here we go. Okay, so at the end of the fight phase there, the Contemptor did manage to make it in, killed 4 of the Guardsmen. Dom decided to obviously roll for his leadership, which ended up being 3, -1 for Nightlordness. So he decided to pay 2 command points to stay alive and frustrate the poor Dreadnought. Yeah. But being Renegades and Heretics, there's not a lot you can spend command points on, to be honest. So probably a wise decision. Anyway, we'll now move on into battle round number 2.
Turn 2, movement for the Renegades and Heretics. So over here, everything has remained stationary, although moving over here slightly, the Leman Russ Punisher is moving up just in front of the Malefic Lord there. Yeah, positioning himself. And the squad of militia over here are just fanning out for now, getting ready for their decisive move, which is going to change the battle. So let's move into turn 2, psychic and shooting for the Renegades and Heretics. Turn 2, psychic and shooting for the Renegades and Heretics. So we started off the psychic phase with the Malefic Lord here casting Warp Flux upon the Flyer, dealing 6 wounds to it, which is pretty brutal, which is I think did the most damage actually this turn. Then what we had the Gattlers and the Heavy Bolters also firing up there. Did a little bit, not a great deal unfortunately. We had the las cannons down here firing across the field with the Minotaur into the Venerator at the back. That is now kaput. It didn't explode unfortunately, but you know, we can't have everything. The crew over here and these 2 quad mortars here fired off into the landing pad here, only killing 1 off because of the +1 save and no AP on the quad mortars. They're pretty safe up there. And the final one here also fired, but it went into the Havocs, killing off 1 of the Havocs there. The heavy bolter, I believe, Tom removed. And finally, we had both Basilisks here firing in into the flyer and destroyed it. Unfortunately, it didn't explode, but and everyone disembarked here. So we're going to move on to turn 2 assault for the Renegades and Heretics. Right, end of turn 2 assault for the Renegades and Heretics. So over here, the fight continues. The brave militiamen getting butchered, picking up 2 of the militiamen and squishing them together. We had to keep them in the battle still with 2 more command points. And need to keep that dreadnought out for a little bit longer. Down here, this Lehman Russ Punisher rushed in, engaging 2 of the Raptor squads, getting 2 wounds back, but just trying to lock them up for a little bit. And that was it for my turn 2. We're going to move into turn 2 for the Emperor's Own, the Nightlords.
So as we start the Nightlords turn 2, we've got some issues to deal with here. We started by moving this squad of Raptors out towards here to get them into range of various units over here. The other Raptor squad has stayed in combat with the tank there just to at least remove some of its firepower the following turn. Over this side of the board, my other movement consists of this Raptor squad dropping in with the Lord as well, just in range of these mortars hopefully. It could be quite a painful charge, but we'll see what happens. Obviously also in range of this squad of men. The vehicles and tanks causing a lot of issues for me. So we'll be back in a minute with some psychic and shooting. Okay, so as the psychic and shooting phase finishes, at the back over there, the Lord, or Chaos Sorcerer, say, put prescience onto the Havoc squad, and they fired into the Basilisk first round, managing to kill the one that was wounded. Then they fired again because they had Marcus Nesh, so they went Endless Cacophony, and I think they shot over back into this Basilisk, and we took it down to 4 wounds. It's on 4 wounds. So yeah, not too bad. Other than that, there was a lot of little small arms fired into this tank here, taking it down to 6 wounds. That was from some plasma from here, some plasma from here. I think it was mainly the plasma actually, wasn't it? Yeah, and then the 2 heavy bolt was fired into the rear mortar squad here, taking it down to 3 wounds. And then over here, a few shots from bolt pistols here. Actually managed to take out 2 of the mortar teams, which was quite impressive. I didn't realise they were that weak, actually. Yeah. Quite bad.
They've only worked out how to use it.
They only worked out to use mortar yesterday, apparently. So that's all the shooting. We're now going to go into the combat phase and see if we can cause some terror. So as turn 2 comes to an end for the Nightlords at the end of the combat phase, over here, these Nightlords are charged in here. Raptors doing 3 wounds, but also causing 4 wounds to leadership damage, which was good. Over to this side, and then these Raptors here managed to take off a couple of wounds on this tank here to take it down to 7. Other than that, the only other combat over here was the Dreadnought, which managed to finish off its prey. However, it has left it rather vulnerable to some las cannons here, but we'll see what happens. So we'll move on into a turn 3 for the Renegades and Heretics.
Turn 3 movement for Renegades and Heretics. So over here, these guys have remained stationary. The Lehman Russ has gone out of combat. He'll be popping smokes in a moment, and he's now sitting on objective 4 here. So the objectives have moved around slightly. This one has remained stationary. This one has come off of the landing platform. It's floating around here at the moment, so the Russ has gone to try and retrieve it. Down here, everyone's still remaining stationary. We're in good positions at the moment. Over here, this objective has floated over that way slightly, and the Renegade commander there just moved up to try and catch it. These militia have left combat to try and avoid getting butchered by the Nightlords. And over here, this objective mark has gone backwards away from those Nightlords. So that is it for movement. Let's have a look to see what happens in turn 3, psychic and shooting. Right, so end of turn 3 shooting and psychic for the Renegades and Heretics. So starting with psychic, we did a smite down here with the Malefic Lord in there, killing off one of the Renegades, who were one of the Raptors, sorry, which are all dead now. Lucky me. The Punisher here fired heavy bolters off onto the left, did a bit of damage. One of the quad mortars finished that squad off there. The main cannon fired twice into the Raptors there, as well as 2 of the quad mortars firing in as well. So basically the combined fire of the Punishers, the one Punisher and the FUD guns killed off both squads of Raptors, which was very nice. Over on this side of the field, however, yeah, these guys are still alive. The squad are still quite active and probably quite angry hearing the death cries from their brothers over the Vox. And then finally over here on the left, The Sentinels fired all their las cannons, nothing. The Minotaur then fired everything, nothing. This thing is going to be a serious problem. So we're going to move into assault. The Sentinels are going to be brave and attempt an assault against that Dreadnought. Let's see what we can do in turn 3 assault for Renegades and Heretics. The turn 3 assault, the Sentinels charged in and did nothing to the Dreadnought. The Dreadnought then just, shoved its power fist through the cockpit of the Sentinel, destroying it. The other two fighting for their lives there. So we're going to move into turn 3 for the Nightlords. Praise the Emperor.
So as the Nightlords kick off turn 3, we managed to score 1 point by holding this objective down here. Other than that, movement-wise, there wasn't too much to move around. These Nightlord Raptors here jumped over the top, just heading towards this suicide run here, probably. And then the Chaos Lord here has moved towards this remaining mortar and also the Basilisk. Everything else has pretty much stayed still because I can't move the Dreadnought out of combat because he needs to carry on fighting, and the rest are all in good shooting positions at the moment. So, over to Psychic and Shooting. So as Nightlords end their turn 3, Psychic and Shooting, Prescience was attempted to be cast on Havocs but failed. They then fired over to this Basilisk here, taking 2 wounds off it because it wasn't a particularly good wounding round. These Raptors here tried to kill out this commander here but not managing to do so. Next up we had basically a load of shooting from these Chaos Marines here. Actually managed to take out the remaining Liam Russ here, but not too brilliant because over here this squad failed to do any wounds to this one here. But hey, it's all right. We'll see if we can get them next round, if there is a next round. So we'll now move on into the assault phase and see how the Nightlords get on. At the end of the turn 3 assault phase for Nightlords, the Lord here did try to assault the mortar but didn't manage to get a long enough charge, even after his reroll. These Raptors did, however, make it into this quad mortar, taking out the crew, so that one can't fire anymore. And then moving over to this side, the Dreadnought actually managed to finish off both the remaining Sentinels before they got a chance to fight back, which is great. That is all the combat. We're now going to move over to turn 4 for the Renegades and Heretics.
Right, turn 4 movement for Renegades and Heretics. It's down here, the Malefic Lord is slowly moving up towards the Contemptor in a desperate attempt to protect the Minotaur from this beast. The Renegade Commander and the Warlord's just moving up here onto Objective 3 there. This Renegade Commander is moved on top of this objective there. And finally, right across the battlefield, they've slowly been working their way to it, and this squad of militia now in the ruin down here. Tom says hiding, I say strategically placed. Right, so let's move into turn 4, Psychic and Shooting for Renegades and Heretics. Turn 4, Shooting for Renegades and Heretics. So, and Psychic of course. Down here we had Warp Flux go off onto the Contemptor there, dealing 1 mortal wound to him. Naturally it would be 1 of everything, just 1 wound. And then basically we had everything that could possibly fire. So we had the Minotaur here firing in, and then the Punisher as well, by firing into this guy here and stripping him all the way down to 1 wound. So he's got 1 wound left, inches away here from the Minotaur. Hopefully he can do something before he gets charged and fisted. Over here we have got the 2 quad mortars that are still continually firing on and have wiped out this centre squad here. So they have now fallen as well. And that was pretty much it. We had a bit of desperate firing over here with the mortar, attempting to do something to him. Didn't do anything at all there. And that was it for shooting. Let's move into assault. Right, so in turn 4 assault, these guys have got some sort of weird obsession with this quad mortar and are continually beating it up. So that is it. We're going to move into turn 4 for the Nightlords.
So Nightlords turn 4, and over here the Sorcerer did try to do a run just to get close enough to smite the vehicle over here, but didn't quite get enough points on the dice, sadly. This squad up here moved forward, getting up against the rails here to try and shoot down at this remaining Lehman Russ. And over here the Dreadnought managed to move up as close as possible, even though it was only a 3-inch move. And onto this side of the board, I left these guys in combat here because they're safer. And then finally over here, the Chaos Lord has moved up to dispose of the mortar. So let's see what happens in the Psychic and Shooting. Okay, so in the Nightlords Shooting and Psychic phase, we put Prescience onto this squad here. Obviously out of range of smite, so couldn't get that off. This squad shot down all its weapons into here, taking it down to 5 wounds. That was also in conjunction with some fire from the Havocs over there. Other than that, the Dreadnought over here did fire into the Minotaur and took off, so it's 2 wounds in the end with its plasma blast gun, the in-fist plasma. Other than that, we can't do anything but shoot a few pistols into this squad of mortars here, and we did 1 damage. Not much really. So we'll head over into the combat phase and see what happens. So at the end of Nightlord's turn 4, over here, the Chaos Lord charged into the remaining mortar team and managed to destroy that, obviously. Fairly easy task for it. Probably, some might say, a bit overkill. And then headed towards the Basilisk over here. The Raptor squad here managed to take a couple more wounds off the mortar squad, taking it down to 2. Unfortunately, the Dreadnought actually almost made it in, but managed to take 1 wound from the Minotaur's Overwatch, so it did actually die, but it was really its only last chance to do that. There was no other combat in the phase, so we're going to head over to turn 5 for Renegades and Heretics.
Right, so start of turn 5 here for Renegades and Heretics. The Leman Russ has remained stationary. I think it's probably got himself stuck. The Malefic Lord here is moving up behind the Leman Russ, hoping to get a smite off into the guys up there. Renegade Commander has remained stationary there. The objectives once again have moved around. This one has remained stationary, although the one the Leman Russ was on has moved out that way, and this one has moved further as well. So a little bit further away from the Sorcerer, but also further away from the Russ there. Over here, however, this one is just still within range. It moved away slightly, but it's still there. And as for movement, one last thing. The little militia that could have moved themselves into position here for line breaker. So that's our movement. Now let's get shooting. End of turn 5, psychic and shooting for the Renegades and Heretics. So down here, once again, the Malefic Lord casts Smite, killing off 1 of the Nightlords up here. The Nightlords were then hit by the Minotaur back here, getting 8 shots off and killing off another 3. Then the Punisher fired up as well as the quad mortars and take the squad all the way down to 2. So it's quite effective shooting there. Across the field as well, we had the Basilisk in a desperate attempt to do something to that Terminator Lord before he gets in combat. Nothing, unfortunately. So we're going to move into turn 5 assault for Renegades and Heretics. End of turn 5 assault for Renegades and Heretics. Didn't have anything to charge, although the Raptors here finished off the quad mortar there. So now they're freed up to do whatever they fancy doing. So we're going to move in now to turn 5 for the Nightlords.
Okay, so at the end of Nightlord's movement in turn 5, the Sorcerer ran up to objective 2, although can't actually score it this turn, unfortunately. Moving over to this side of the board, the Raptors have, obviously having finished their combat, have now moved in front of the other 2 quad mortars. Don't know if it's wise to charge them, but we'll find out in a minute how wise they're feeling. And obviously the Lord over here has decided his target is going to be the Basilisk. He's already in the end zone, so he may as well just try and score something. So that is the end of movement when I head into psychic and shooting.
Right, so turn 5 for the Nightlords. So this is the whole turn here. What we had was the missiles down here, 2 of which fired crack missiles over through and destroyed the Russ there. Sad times for Leman Russ. The other one fired a frag missile and just shredded the 4 militiamen there. After their celebrations, they were quickly cut down. And that was really the shooting phase. In assault, however, the Chaos Lord here in Terminator armor charged in and made very short work of the Basilisk there, destroying it. Over here, however, the 4 Raptors charged into the quad mortars, 2 of which were killed through Overwatch. So yeah, I'm not sad about that, but there we go. And that is it. At the end of the game here, we have got 8 points for Renegades and Heretics and 4 for Nightlords. So a pretty strong win for the Renegades, although the terrain was definitely in the favour of Renegades. Model of the match will probably be this one little Malefic Lord here, because it was just a pain in everyone's side here, handing out mortal wounds, like they were going out of fashion with Smite and Warp Flux there. Tom, do you have a model of the match?
It'll be the Dreadnought because it lasted the longest out of all my vehicles.
Yeah, so the Contemptor, the little Contemptor that was coming along here. It killed off a squad of militia, it killed off a squad of sentinels on his dying kind of moments, came towards the Minotaur, and the Minotaur unfortunately just ripped it apart there. So a very fun game. Lots of cool little moments happened there. So this is Dom and Tom from BlackToad Studios. Thank you very much for watching. And if you haven't already, give us a like and a subscribe, and we will see you next time. Take care.